the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, Mitt Romney, is trying to keep laser-like focus on what he feels is President Obama's weak spot. That would be the economy. But allegations of high school bullying are complicating his effort. Our national political correspondent, Jim Acosta, is joining us now. Jim, this story doesn't seem to be going away all that quickly. What's the latest?
That's right, Wolf. Mitt Romney was asked again about this alleged incident of bullying down in North Carolina earlier today. He basically gave the same answer he's offered since all of this came up. It is just the latest example of how Mitt Romney would like to stick to the economy. The story followed Mitt Romney to the battleground state of North Carolina, popping up not in his speech, but in an interview with a local TV station.
I was one who did some stupid things in high school, and if anyone feels that they were offended by that, I certainly apologize.
Romney declined to say whether he remembered the incident first reported in the Washington Post, that back in 1965 at a private school in Michigan, a young Romney and a group of friends held down a classmate and cut off chunks of his hair. The GOP contender's inability to remember what happened isn't sitting well with Romney's former classmate, Philip Maxwell, who told CNN he is still haunted by what he claims he saw. I know what an assault is, Maxwell says. This kid was scared. He was terrified. That's an assault. Romney says he doesn't remember it, and I find it difficult to believe. It's unfortunate that Mitt simply hasn't owned up to his behavior. The Romney campaign has quietly tried to put the matter to rest by issuing statements from former classmates like John French, who said Mitt never had a malicious bone in his body. Trying to imply or characterize him as a bully is absurd. A Romney campaign spokesperson acknowledged French did not witness the incident.
The real question here is Mitt Romney a bully? And the answer is no.
Romney's former lieutenant governor went on CNN to defend the GOP contender's character.
That his impulses are very kind impulses, and there should be no debate about whether or not Governor Romney is a bully.
Sometimes people forget the magnitude of it.
In a move to change the subject, the Romney campaign quickly pounced on the president's comments at a Seattle fundraiser that became a new Republican Party ad.
And sometimes people forget the magnitude of it, you know. And you saw some of that, I think, in the video that was shown. Sometimes I forget.
Mr. Obama's line, "Sometimes I forget," instantly ping-ponged among Romney staffers on Twitter.
This recovery's been the slowest, most tepid since Hoover.
And Romney didn't forget to bring up the president's comments in that interview in Charlotte.
I don't forget that. I see that every day. And I will do everything in my power to get people good jobs.
And look for Mitt Romney to stick to the subject of the economy tomorrow, even though he is scheduled to visit the very Christian conservative Liberty University in Virginia. Excerpts from Romney's speech so far released by the campaign are all about jobs. But, Wolf, I will tell you that later on this afternoon, not too long from now, the Romney campaign is going to brief reporters about what Mr. Romney is going to be saying down at Liberty University. So we'll have to see whether or not there's a chance he may be talking a little bit more about his faith, a little bit more about some of these issues that matter a lot to Christian conservatives. We're waiting to hear what the Romney campaign has to say about that in just a little while from now, Wolf.
All right, you'll let us know what they say, Jim. Thanks very much. Let's dig a little bit deeper right now. Joining us, Howard Kurtz of CNN's Reliable Sources. He's the Washington Bureau Chief of Newsweek and the Daily Beast. Also, our chief political correspondent, Candy Crowley. She's the host of State of the Union Sunday mornings, airing here on CNN. Candy, how big of a distraction for Mitt Romney is this whole high school bullying story that has emerged?
Well, Jim Acosta could have spent the whole top of your show talking about the economy and how Mitt Romney feels about the economy, and said the piece was about the high school bullying story. So, yes, it's a distraction.
It's a distraction. I guess I don't know if they're dealing with it appropriately, not dealing. If you're in a campaign like this, how do you deal with something 50 years old, conflicting memories or whatever?
Well, one of the things I thought of immediately was George W. Bush and the whole, did he do drugs? And he said, when I was young, and irresponsible. I was young and irresponsible, boom, and moved on. This, well, I don't really remember, but if somebody was hurt, I apologize. Why not say, if he doesn't remember, I don't remember. By the way, bullying, shouldn't happen. People are stupid at 17, but here's my clear and direct response. It's a little mushy, and I think it keeps it going.
Is it fair game? Is it appropriate for journalists to look back at someone's high school? I mean, all of us did silly, stupid things in high school.
Even you, Wolf.
All of us did. Is it appropriate?
Well, I think the Washington Post article passed every journalistic test except one. It was meticulously reported. 4 of the 5 student eyewitnesses were quoted on the record But it's 47 years ago, and so is there any statute of limitations on this sort of thing? And it does feel a bit like a cheap hit, and Romney, I think, didn't help himself by not denouncing bullying and maybe owning up to it. But, you know, is it fair game? Look, as you know, Wolf, when you run for president, everything in your past can be tried.
4 years ago, when Barack Obama was running for president, we learned about his high school years in Honolulu as well, playing basketball. We all remember the pictures. I guess the point is, if you're running, Candy, for president of the United States, you have to assume everything in your life is going to be scrutinized.
You absolutely do. And I'm sort of two minds of this. The people that I talk to outside this business go, why do I care about this exactly? It happened 50 years ago. Here's why I think it's important, or why it matters, at least to the Romney campaign. He has so far not defined himself to the American. Most American people don't know what Mitt Romney is about yet. You know, part of that is he's not the president. They're just not that clear. They haven't been paying that close of attention. So when something comes out that begins to define you that's negative, it catches on more than if they thought, wait a minute, I know Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney is this kind of guy, or he's that kind of guy. Now they're reading these sort of, you know, teenage stories about him without a whole lot else to kind of flesh out who he has become over time.
The clear implication is that this matters because it tells us something about Romney's character. But it tells us, if so, let's say it's absolutely true and he was a complete jerk. He was 17. I don't think it tells us very much about his character now, and while it's of some salacious interest and it's very
But what I'm
gossipy,
saying is he's not telling us about his... We haven't seen enough of him. People have not seen enough of him to know. They don't have a feel for him.
Romney, because he's a reserved guy who is good at reading speeches about the economy, but doesn't really share about his faith, about his inner feelings. That's just the way he is. Therefore, you're saying he's more vulnerable to this kind of story.
This kind of story.
So your ex-employer, the Washington Post, should they have run these long pieces, or should they not have run these long pieces?
I don't have any problem with the portrait of Romney as a young high school student, but the way in which this was the lead clearly designs a very damaging anecdote. It was also clear, Wolf, that the Post itself had some reservations about it because this was published online, not in the paper till today, and the Post editor was quoted as saying, we felt uneasy putting it on the front page of the paper edition with the story saying Barack Obama embraces same-sex marriage. So even the Post, I think, didn't want it to look like it was ganging up on Romney in a week when gay sexual conduct was very much in the news because of the president's dramatic
Do you
announcement.
remember at all, very briefly, the Washington Post 4 years ago doing any series of articles like this about Barack Obama?
Certainly looked at Obama's entire history,
years.
but I don't remember a piece about what he was like at 15 or 16, other than...
Do you remember?
I don't remember any, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't go to the bank with it. But no, and that's the complaint from the conservative side.
Yes, saying, wait a minute, where is the double standard? They're looking for dirt on Mitt Romney. They never look for dirt, so-called, on Barack Obama.
What about
Obama indemnified himself by writing that autobiography in which he acknowledged he had smoked pot, he had used drugs, he had done some things. So that got recycled by the Washington Post and everybody else. But in a way, Obama got there first.
The story.
He got there first. Not a bad thing for a future presidential candidate.
State of the Union, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, also at noon Eastern. Right. Reliable sources, 11 a.m. Eastern, Sunday morning, only here on CNN.
We'll be talking about this issue.
You'll have a lot more on this story. I know you will. Guys, thanks very much. A bomb-making genius intent on striking the United States. Chilling new details emerging about a key al-Qaeda player also. President Obama's huge Hollywood fundraising haul. Will it close the Democrats' gap with Republicans potentially? Plus, the remarkable discovery of a perfectly preserved, look at this, World War II fighter plane. But what happened to the pilot?